Looking good, YouTube. My name's Love Game, or PD1 Piranha if you prefer. And I, as King Seeker Frampt has told me, am a man destined to be king. Welcome back to more Let's Play Dark Souls. Before we scale the heights of Firelink Shrine, what do you say we check out this completely unassuming graveyard here? Thankfully, these skeletons are in fact weak to crush damage. Or strike, actually. I'm thinking of RuneScape, sorry. Essentially blunt damage. And that is what our mace happens to specialize in. I mean, look at all this bluntness we're causing. I mean, obviously we're not smoking a blunt right now, but we probably should be. Maybe later. I don't know, I don't smoke during LPs. I totally did not smoke anything before I did parts 8 and 9 of Pokemon Platinum. That was in the grass type part of the world, but I most definitely did not inhale any substances of plant variety. Nor did my co-commentator, just so you know. Ah, so many lovely bones. But yeah, if you are around my level, these guys should be no trouble for you, but if you have a mace, they're just absolute jokes. There, by the way, is the Zweihander, an incredibly potent weapon if you ask me. I actually used it on my first playthrough. It's quite notable for being good in PvP, but it's a decent weapon overall. It's quite slow and quite heavy. It's what you call an ultra great sword in this game. There's some binoculars if you want a nice view of the country of Lordran here. Interesting to note is that all of that down there is actually modeled. I have heard a lot of contention that a lot of people think that that's a better way of doing things than what Dark Souls 2 did, where DS2 had a lot of, like, far off areas that were just built into the skybox, and this game just kind of modeled it in very low poly models. I really don't care all that much, because in the end, when you're far enough away from it, it looks pretty much the same. It doesn't look any worse when you're looking at it from the intended point of view, I suppose. Got so many graves here you can hardly navigate the place. I mean, there's just like no room to maneuver because so many peeps kicked the bucket here. Makes you wonder sometimes, you know? This down here is the entrance to a later area. You can, in fact, if you're a bit of a speedrunner type, you can take this place on first. From the get-go. That's how you get the mace if you're not a cleric. But the problem with that is the enemies down here will be very tanky if you're just fresh out of the asylum. And I do not personally want to deal with incredibly tanky enemies. So I usually hold off on that because I don't like running past enemies. That's not my style. Even though I did in fact do that against those poisonous ogre things in Blighttown, but that's because fighting two of those at once is generally inadvisable. But yeah, I don't mind the fact that Dark Souls 2 just had pictures of what was out in the distance, because if you were looking at it from the intended point of view, it really made no difference. I mean, if you're going to hack the game, and yeah, they've left, by the way. Yeah, if you're going to hack the game and go down there and look, it's obviously going to look, well, I say better in quotes for Dark Souls 1 because it's going to look like N64 models, but I don't know. The extra attention to detail is cool, but you're never going to see that. So, in order to climb Firelink Shrine, you want to land on this pillar down here. It's a little tough to do. I have much more problems doing this on the PC version as opposed to console. So I'm going to attempt this and fail. Let's give that another college try, shall we? There we go. Yeah, I can do that pretty much 100% consistent on console, but I guess having 30 FPS kind of makes it more precise in a way? I'm not sure if that's actually the case when it comes to that particular jump, but that's how it's been in my own experience. Anyways, like our lovely robin eggs here, you want to curl up like a ball. I want to get rid of these arrows, they're kind of cramping my style. Might seem like nothing's happening, but just wait. Be a patient little egg. And eventually our raven friend will notice us. I'll be like, call, my dude. I came to take you back to high school. Yes, this episode, as I said, is our long-awaited high school reunion. I know ever since the beginning of this LP you've been waiting for that, and it has been 10 years. You know, I was 15 10 years ago, so we're kind of coming back to high school finally. Unfortunately, the first thing we run into is a bunch of those students we didn't like trying to light up weed because they thought they were cool for touching a blunt with one of their fingers back in the day. Even though they knew nothing about weed, they wanted to scathe us with their knowledge of it and their infinite combos. But we get double kills through walls because we were sober during high school, and only sober people can get double kills through solid stone walls. However, we also have our, it's further down here actually. We have our old Lost and Found. You know, back when you used to lose your coat or something. Like I used to lose my jackets all the time back in the day. And our lovely Lost and Found here would give us our stuff back when we would lose it. So, we're going to give them some moss in exchange for something that we lost back in high school. But they don't like exchanging stuff in public, you see, because they had to get naked to do it. All of their stuff was stored inside their anal cavity all these years before. So why don't we listen to some lovely music for a minute. Just get lost in the tranquility of Soul of Fire. The music you might want to lie down and cuddle your future girlfriend with, you know? Just take things slow and forget about the world for a minute. Forget that the world is on the brink of destruction, and take this time out to appreciate life and what it offers. Appreciate the life-affirming flesh you were given, and the humanity that you hold so dear, that you'll one day lose if you don't fucking play the game, bitch.
You give me.
The Lost and Found had given me back my Twinkling Titanite that I lost many years ago. Thank you. I do have a few more of those, though. I don't just have the one. I lost a few of those back in the day because my pockets were full of knowledge, you see. I was a learned individual, and I would carry all my pencils until they got broken by people. That happened in real life, by the way. I would lose pencils all the time until I ran out entirely. Which was partially my fault, because when I would rage back in middle school, I broke my pencils to let the rage out. And I ran out, so I was the one breaking them, really.
You give me.
Thankfully, we have all our Twinkling Titanite restored now. I was hoping I would get that back one of these days. I just didn't know it'd be so soon. Yeah, we have some quite rowdy classmates in here. The ones that were always trying to extend your class by not sitting down when the teacher told you and instead swinging their swords around, which was just no fun at all because the school had a very strict no swords policy that often people would not follow. They were just being complete pricks about it. And actually, I would like to go back to my old homeroom class to see if the teacher is still there. Because I didn't like that teacher very much. It was not fond of the fact that I would always fall asleep in class and trying to get me in that Saturday school all the time, and I was having none of it. So back then what I would do is I'd go up to my teacher and I would take my shield out and I would parry his sword. He would carry a sword around at all times, you see. Although I was not good at the timing, I was actually in a parrying class back then. And trying to learn that, see. Back in the day, I would often get killed by him as well. Now, what I didn't mention is the reason I get killed by him so often is that the school here had a dress code. They didn't like black robes very much because the Dark Brotherhood had kind of interfered with their plans for corralling all the undead into this one school. And they didn't like chain backstabs either, so they tended to avoid that as much as they can. But this was my homeroom right here, back in the day. Weird thing about me was that I kept peculiar dolls on my person. I liked to play with those when I was bored. I didn't have my action figures back then, or my Zoids or anything like that, so I would just, I got bored and I had all these dolls I would play with. I mean, I like to call them action figures myself, but let's face it, they had real hair that you could brush in real time, and some of them even came with play sets, but the point being, I used to carry those around with me, and I would like to have one of those on me right now, if I can possibly do that. Aw. I can't get to my my best friend right now. I'll have to go through the long way. Are those old classmates still trying to give me hell after all these years? Don't they know I've moved past that? Yeah, here was my my English teacher. Problem with him is he wanted to fuck me in junior high. Issue with that was my English teacher was a guy. So I slapped him in the face with a mace. I didn't pass his class because I wasn't a very good rapper, but I was able to get his red Titanite, his most prized possession at the time. Don't know why you wanted that so bad. It kind of sucked if you ask me. I mean, the elemental infusions in Dark Souls 1 were not a great class to take. They weren't very enriching, if you ask me. But regardless, what they used to do all the time is they used to set up these pranks where they would roll boulders down the wall and like bust holes in the wall and shit. And I mean, the school was gonna be demolished anyway. It was it was scheduled for demolitions. We all wrote some kind of stupid shit on the walls. And I drew a picture, actually. I drew a picture of Pichu. Don't know why I did that, but kind of a early shitpost of my life. Because we all know Pichu was the best character in Melee at the time, so I thought it was hilarious to draw a picture of Pichu. Where the hell did my best friend go? Did he run off? I thought I had given him an invite as well. the dress code didn't like this stuff. I mean, I had this one guy, by who I mean me, got expelled, actually. He got expelled for a week, which is more along the lines of being suspended, for having excessive flip in the back of his hair and excessive poise breaking on his sword. But he wasn't very good at the parrying class, so he often would get worse grades than me in that aspect. He thought he could win through sheer kicks, but evidently not. His shield, however, was kind of useful during the final exam, which I had actually never gotten to make a good grade on, sadly. I was a bit lazy back then. I didn't really apply myself to my work, and as a result I would often have to stay after class for shit, including, you know, I had to do credit by exam just to pass this place, and kind of made me look bad. So, just for the sake of doing so, I want to show off the fact that I can actually pass this class, and thankfully his shield will be the key to that. His shield, what he did with it, by the way, here's my class ring. I left it here for some reason. That class ring was something I ordered out of the catalog when I graduated, and originally it was white gold, but it rusted over the years, sadly. Has seen better days, but for some reason this ring kind of helped me when I was going through a slow part in my life. It would help me pick up the pace. As you can see, people have been drinking here to celebrate the reunion. Didn't save any for me, but I'll take a sip regardless. Unfortunately, since this place was scheduled for demolition, they didn't care too much for the infrastructure of the place, and they kind of let it go to shit, if you ask me. Matter of fact, I feel like the floor could cave in any moment. Oh shit. But yeah, here we have our final exam. For some reason our exam was to kill a large demon creature. I don't know how that would help our education, but this guy was quite the stickler when it came to his exams. He did not want you to miss a single point. You either got an A or you got failed, which I was no big fan of myself. I mean, I was quite good at this subject, the subject of blunt weapons, but some people did not prefer to partake in that, and there was nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But according to this guy, he was like, again, he was a stickler. You missed one day of school, he was going to be on your ass like squirrels at a peanut butter convention, you know? Pay enough attention to him, though, he will give you the hints to pass this exam. For example, his butt was in fact his weak point. He would try to stomp you with it sometimes, but usually you could avoid that by rolling. Kind of a strange thing to do in class, but he would permit that as long as you used it in a constructive manner. He was quite similar to our earlier principal that we had that you might have met earlier. And he didn't like you getting hit by his magic burst. That would give you at least one demerit. But I ain't looking to get no detention right now, big guy. Thankfully, my best friend's shield that he would write all the answers on was the key to success, as DJ Khaled would say. I actually went to school with DJ Khaled before he was famous. He would talk about watering his plants all the time, and he would often give us advice through the Snapchat service. It was a magical spell that we would use to communicate with other people. when we were not locally next to each other. Quite the success. But DJ Khaled, the problem with him was we'd give him some souls and some weapons and be like, another one. He was a bit greedy. He always wanted more than what we could give him. And I mean, I appreciate the enthusiasm, Mr. Khaled, but you can only have so much. But thanks to the key to success, which is this mace, by the way, that's how I got it. He gave me the key to success, and we have the Titanite slab, which will have to serve as our diploma. I know it's a bit, not what you were expecting, but it does have writing on it, which probably says something about graduating high school. And that was a fun reunion, wouldn't you say? We met some people that we hadn't seen in a few years, and we had a lot of fun. Maybe 10 years later, we'll do that again. If you are in the Lordran, Lothric, Drangleic, Tri-State area, hit me up. And we'll have a good time. For now, we're going to probably use the knowledge we got here to get some faith, because this was, in fact, a Christian high school. I didn't tell you that, but it was popular with the Christian crowd due to its not teaching of evolution, but not a lot of Pokemon fans in this high school, unfortunately. I was one of the few. I had to teach people about Gastrodon and Garchomp and all those guys. I was one of the student teachers later on in life. But the problem with these guys is they smoked weed too early in their life, and their brains got kind of underdeveloped. Whereas I waited later on, and then I smoked when the time was right. And I was able to become TFW2 intelligent. I don't know what else to trade in with our lost and found here, so we're going to bid another farewell to our, not quite the alma mater, it's not a college, but our lovely high school, and may it teach more people the ins and outs of Dark Souls. We're going to be taking the bus out of here, just like old times. I don't know about this bus. It was kind of not so economical because it was one by one. You couldn't ride more people than one at a time, so it was kind of took a long time to get to school if you were the last one in line, but thankfully my name starts with an N, so I was kind of in the middle of the pack. I mean, if your name was something like, I don't know, what the fuck starts with a Z? There's no Dark Souls character I can think of. But I feel bad for you if that was the case. Either way, that being said, we're probably going to head on to greener pastures next time. Maybe go to college, I don't know. How do you guys feel about attending university and furthering our studies? I don't know. I feel pretty good about that. What do you say, Laurentius?
Oh, you made it out. Yeah, I made it out safely too.
Yeah, he was actually an upperclassman. He was in the class above us, and
oh yeah,
just kind of making fun of me because I had to attend an extra year,
I think you have a knack for it.
or one more so than
I'll be pleased to help you.
than him.
Unless you find the magic's unsafe.
Because he was one of those AP students, like my girlfriend.
Really?
I could have been AP in real life, but the fact of the matter is I fucking hate homework, so I kind of
No,
avoided that like the toxic plague.
I only wish that I could have repaid you somehow.
No, it's fine, dude. I got plenty of money in the bank right now,
Pleased
so
to see you safe. Oh, and
it's all good.
If you have a change of hearts, I'll be pleased to assist you by sharing my spells.
I forget if you have to say yes or no here. I'll say yes and see what he says. Okay. If you begin as a pyromancer, you have to say no there, because it's like, oh, if it's too What the hell was that inflection, buddy?
Right, let's get
That was
started.
weird. But yes, if you want to learn pyromancy, this is your guy. As you can see, he has quite a few to start off with, so combustion is quite good in my opinion, so if you want to use that. I was considering a pyromancy build
No, you
in this on this character, but I thought, you know what, clerics are a lot of fun too, so nothing wrong with that. That being said, now that we have come back from our lovely high school reunion, we're going to go on to greater pastures next time and see what this deformed looking, big nose, no gums having boy was talking about elucidating our fate. I mean, sounds interesting enough for another part, so until then, I have been Love Game, and I wish you guys a good morning and night, or whatever time of day you watch this video.